What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Create from Truth podcast. I'm your host, Will. And today we're going to talk about the importance of long-form content when it comes to building the content ecosystem of your brand and giving your ideal types of clients different opportunities to understand who you are, what you do, and how you can specifically help them on their own time, though, and building out this Disneyland, if you will, of your brand, of your methodologies, of your client case studies, and allowing your ideal types of clients to come into your world or your version of Disneyland, if you will, and be able to do all of these different things as it pertains to educating themselves on your coaching, on what it would look like to work with you. They can watch this free training here. They can watch this case study here. They can watch your Instagram stories of how you're coaching clients here. They can go through some of your Facebook group trainings or your school trainings here. They can listen to your podcast over here, watch more videos on YouTube over here. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying do all of this right now, okay? I'm just merely painting the picture of creating a situation where your ideal types of clients now come to you, right? If you're a coach who's just starting out and you don't have an audience, you don't have ideal types of clients in whatever social media platform that you're using, and you don't want to run ads, it's tough sledding because you need to go through a period of grinding and building your audience and having conversations with ideal types of clients and going to your ideal types of clients just simply because you have no other choice if you want to grow, right? But over time, that is not a good long-term strategy. Everyone starts there. I started there. But over time, it's not a good long-term strategy. The long-term strategy, which is what I'm going to talk about in this podcast episode, is you want your ideal types of clients to come to you, okay? You want ideal types of clients raising their hand saying, hey, I'm interested in whatever ABC call to action, or hey, I just listened to 4 of your podcasts where you were speaking about X, Y, and Z. That is totally related to my story, and I want to know a little bit more about what it would look like to work with you. Or, hey, I just watched your YouTube video, or I just watched one of your free trainings in a Facebook group or on school, and that client, Jackie, that you worked with, was exactly my problem that I have right now as well, and the same lifestyle that I currently have. And because she saw such great results, I want to apply it as well. I want to know more about what it would look like to work with you, right? Those are some examples of what I'm talking about today and what the law of 7 hours is. So what the law of 7 hours is putting 7 hours of long form content out there on the internet so your ideal types of clients can go through it on their own time. Key word is on their own time, okay? Don't get me wrong, having conversations with ideal types of clients, creating the gap in that conversation, and then suggesting they hop on a call to learn more about what you do, that's a great strategy. It works well, you got to do it. But especially as the market is starting to evolve, I'm finding people always want to buy, people always want to invest in themselves, absolutely, but nobody wants to be sold to. Nobody wants to be pushed into a decision, okay? They want to come to that conclusion on their own time. So in terms of the law of 7 hours, being able to provide that educational content on, if it's YouTube, if it's a podcast, if it's private school trainings or Facebook trainings, whatever it may be, and putting that out there specifically for your ideal types of clients and making sure that that content is strategic based off of the main elements that your ideal type of client needs to see, needs to hear, needs to believe in order to make a qualified buying decision. That's what's going to flip the script for you. And what I mean by that is you have 3 perfect ideal types of clients coming to you per week in your Instagram DMs or Facebook DMs or more over time, asking more about what you do and how you can work with you, right? So that's the law of 7 hours. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this now, no matter where you guys are at, I think most of my audience are coaches around 5, 10K a month, some much more, some much less. Obviously there's a big curve there when it comes to online coaches. But the faster that you guys can start creating your long form content, I'm not saying rush it, but I'm saying you should have started yesterday. So the next best time to start is today. Start it now. If it's a YouTube channel, if it's a podcast, if it's a school community or Facebook community, whatever it may be, give your ideal types of clients opportunities to really sink their teeth into something and learn more about you, okay? For example, we're talking about the law of 7 hours here, right? And to be quite honest, I actually think it's much less. I think in today's buying environment, people only need 2 hours, 3 hours of consuming your long form content in order to identify themselves as a good ideal type of client. I think that the law of 7 hours is a little bit outdated because I learned it in 2020. It was the first summer of COVID. That's when I first learned it. And I think it's actually getting less and less and less over time. But the concept is still very, very much true. And I made this post on Instagram the other day. I'm not sure if some of you guys saw it or some of you guys are coming from that post in terms of getting your first introductory understanding of what this concept is. But you want to make sure that you put these types of resources, videos, podcasts, whatever it may be out there so that when your ideal type of client sees your content on Facebook or Instagram or heck, TikTok or whatever short form platform you guys are building your audience on first, they can go to these different platforms and then get a deeper, more immersed experience and education and understanding of not only what you do and what your process is and how you're different than other coaches, but also, and arguably more importantly, who you are as a person, right? Like you can, for example, if you guys are watching or listening to this podcast, you guys can tell a lot from me and my personality just in the way that I speak, right? And in looking at me and some of the things that I talk about on this podcast when I talk about core values and my family and lifestyle, things like that. Sure, I'm teaching you a lot about my process and about what it would look like to work with me, yes, but I also show a lot of personality as well. And if you don't jive with my personality or who I am as a person, you're probably going to hop off my stuff and go consume other coaches' stuff, which is totally fine. That's actually exactly what I want. But if you jive with my personality, my core values, what my philosophies are in coaching and my unique style, and you also think that my style can work for you, you're going to identify yourself as, hey, I want to work with Will one day, right? That's what's eventually going to happen. And it stems from this long form. Whoops, sorry. I just hit the microphone here if you guys are listening to this. It stems from the long form. Now, you might come into my world from short form content, but when you really get into, okay, what is Will all about? Who is this person? How can he actually get a result for me inside of my coaching business? That's the long form content. So when it actually comes to the law of 7 hours, a good way to explain the results that it can get you inside of your coaching business is it compresses the amount of time that it takes for a prospect to be cold in terms of having really no idea who you are, what you do, how you can specifically help them, to piping hot, saying, hey, what are your prices? What does it look like to work with you? Let me know. I want one of the spots on your coaching list. Now, you want to think about this logically, right? Because we're talking about the law of 7 hours. How long would it take for someone to go through 7 hours of your content on Instagram or on TikTok or on Facebook? It probably takes, let's say on average, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, probably take, if I'm watching an Instagram story of yours, that's like 15 seconds, right? If I'm reading through one of your Instagram posts, it's maybe 2 minutes. If I'm watching one of your Instagram reels, this may be 30 seconds, right? Same with Facebook, even less so on TikTok. Don't even get me started on TikTok. But it'll probably take me months, if not years, right, to really go through enough content to warm up to the point of working with you as a coach, right? It takes time. It definitely does. If I'm looking at this through the lens of the law of 7 hours. Whereas if I came into your world on Instagram or Facebook or wherever it may be, but now I'm listening to your podcast, and because I'm listening to your podcast, I listened to 3 episodes because I had a long drive this last weekend, and I listened to 3 back to back to back. Well, now all of a sudden, within one freaking day, I'm a lot warmer of a potential prospect than I was just sitting on your Instagram, right? Or maybe because you have some really good YouTube trainings, I click on one of your YouTube videos, which interests me, but now because I'm in your YouTube, I watch 4 more videos back to back to back on different pain points that I have that can help my current situation. Same thing. Now, all of a sudden, I go from, don't really know who you are, don't really know if I'm into your stuff, to, hey, this coach can solve my problem. This coach can actually get me from where I am now to where I want to get to. So you guys see the power of that. Or it could be a private community, free trainings on school, whatever it may be. There's a lot of power in that. So creating bingeable content that is more long form. And when I say long form, guys, you don't have to create like 2-hour long trainings. That's not what I'm saying. Long form is anything more than, honestly, 8 minutes. That would be considered more long form. But the tail effect, and what I mean by tail effect is the continued efficiency of that input. If you're putting it into a podcast, a YouTube video, school training, Facebook group training, whatever it may be, that can continue getting traction, can continue getting hits and views, especially if you guys are using it strategically, for months, if not years. Whereas your Instagram post is going to get like 24 hours, 48 hours of reach, and then it kind of dies in the algorithm, right? And then you need to continually post new content on top of it to continually stay on the train of content to make sure that your ideal types of clients see your message. Now, if you guys are boosting some of your best posts, which also is a good strategy specifically on Instagram and Facebook too, or I guess Meta, I should say, then that's a good strategy as well, because you can get more of a tail effect from it. But my take home point here is this. Don't get me wrong, your short form content is important, right? Like, I'm not shitting on short form content saying you should completely forget it. That's not what I'm saying. It's a very effective place to build a community. It's a very effective place to get attention, right? That's what you want. But you need to make sure that you then funnel that attention to your long form. And funnel is a very choice word that I'm using in this context, because that's exactly what's going to happen. You might get 100 people on your Instagram who are interested in what you do, how you can specifically help them. And then maybe only 30 of that 100 are going to funnel down your process to listen to your podcast, or to join your free school community or Facebook group, or watch your YouTube videos, right? But that's okay. Because when you call in your next 5 clients, for example, for your one-on-one coaching program for $4,000, where are you going to get your clients? It's going to come from those 30 people who came into your long-form community more times than not, right? Not your 100 random people on your Instagram or your TikTok or your Facebook. So it's a good way to start thinking more strategically around content and your ecosystem. Like, I use the word ecosystem as well, in a very deliberate way, because that's very much what your content is. Your content shouldn't be something that you just put out there and then it dies. You want something that lives, that takes on a life of its own, right? That works outside of you. If you guys are going to put time and energy into something, I want to make sure that it's efficient for you, right? So again, I'm not saying that Instagram content or Facebook content is bad. It's really good to get attention, but just be efficient with your time, right? So for example, this podcast about talking about the law of 7 hours, it came from an Instagram post. It came from the Instagram post that I just posted yesterday. If you guys haven't seen it, go to my Instagram. It's very blatant. The title is Law of 7 Hours, and I'm talking about it in a carousel format, which is short form, right? But then I'm going to follow that up and talk about it in this podcast, which is long form. So I'm being efficient with my ideas. I'm being efficient with my content and repurposing it in different areas so that it has a long, what I'm saying, tail effect. Okay, to be efficient. That's one of the most important things I want you guys to take away from some of my philosophies and some of the things that I'm teaching you on this podcast. Be efficient. I've had years in my coaching business where I was not efficient, and I would focus on these different projects and these different things that didn't synergistically raise everything up in accordance in working together. And it's messy. It's messy. I do not recommend building your business like that. I recommend it being efficient, being well thought out. And what's that old adage that I think it's Abraham Lincoln, where you give me what is it, 5 hours to chop down trees, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. That's exactly what I butchered that, I know. But that's exactly what I'm talking about here, right? In terms of thinking through your strategy and then applying it to a way where you can get clients from that effort for the next months or years, right? Instead of just one post that's a flash in the pan and then it's dead. So that's what I'm talking about here. And to kind of land the plane here on this episode, your goal is to accelerate trust, right? Like we're kind of in a trust recession with the way the industry is going and the rise of AI. And man, oh man, I don't know about you guys, but I look at my Instagram DMs, and that's also why if you guys are in fundamentals mastery, don't DM me on Instagram if you have like coaching questions. I've had this conversation with a few of you. DM me on school, because that's where I prioritize my client interactions. My Instagram DMs are crazy, but like a lot of it is just trash. I don't know where all of these bot accounts or straight pitches come from. Like I get like 10 a day. I just have to like constantly delete people in my DMs. It's crazy. But anyway, to my point is the more that happens, the less trust people are going to have for online coaching, right? So I do think trust is continually declining. And I've been talking about this for years, actually, since 2020. But it's just continually happening. And that's why the strategies that I build out, like the value video, like long form content, some of these different ways to build your coaching business, it's all trust based first, right? It's not sales based. It's not twist your arm, manipulate your words based. It's trust based. Because if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. If you don't have trust, you cannot get a client, right? Like a coach-client relationship is built on the foundation of trust. So understanding that and making sure that your coaching systems and philosophies are in direct correlation with that, then you can only see success long-term. And the ROI of long-form content, which is exactly what the title of this podcast is extremely high. So that's it for me today, guys. I just want to introduce this concept for you and make sure that you're thinking about it, because I want to make sure that you coaches who are listening to this podcast or watching these videos on YouTube, I want to make sure that you are building sustainable foundations inside of your coaching business, right? I want to make sure that I'm directing you, and I have a huge duty of care with what I teach on this podcast. I don't just willy-nilly come up with titles, right, and episodes. When I come up with these episodes and these titles and the topics that I want to talk about on this podcast, or even my Instagram content for that matter, you guys have probably seen I don't have a large following, right? Like I have like 2,800 followers, or like, yeah, I think around there. Reason being is because I will, and this is a tangent, but I will not go for growth. If I need to go for growth, that means I need to start talking about more surface level clickbaity things to appeal to the masses when it comes to online coaching and businesses, right? I will always stay small and focus on my true fans because I want to go extremely deep with value, right? I want to go extremely deep with giving you guys information that actually serves you. And I'm not just saying, hey, the best 10 TikTok titles for 2024 and it's going to die tomorrow. Like I would hate myself if I created content like that. I want to teach you tried and true principles, human psychology, what it looks like to actually have a full book of clients and consistently have a full book of clients, right? Not just be a flash in the pan coach because you had a post go viral. Understanding that is what I want to continually talk about. And it's unsexy a lot of the time, but I'm not willing to compromise on it because it's my brand. It's my brand. It's what I do. And I kind of like being one of the best kept secrets in the coaching industry. It's kind of cool. It's kind of my thing. But anyway, guys, to the point of this podcast, provide value as much as you can, but also make sure that you are building sustainability and you are being efficient with the time that you're putting into your coaching business, because it is extremely important. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have any more questions on this particular topic, you can reach out to me on Instagram. That's usually where I'm most active in terms of responding to messages, especially for listeners to this podcast. As you guys know, I'm very interactive with you guys, and I want to serve you in the best possible way. So with that being said, see you guys in the next episode. Enjoy the rest of your day.